I'm almost done with the basic coloring, and I am ready to be done. The coloring stage is always kind of one of those tedious parts where you just have to do it. You're basically doing connect the dots and paint by numbers when you're doing it the way I do. Anyway, when the people who are really masterful do it, it's definitely a sight to behold, but unfortunately I am not one of those guys. I forgot to ink that, so I'll just put that right there. There we go. Ah! Nope. There we go. And with that, basic coloring, I think, is done. Let's take a look. Yep. Same. Next up, backsplash. Got to do that before I can do the white sections. Let's see. Let's start with red. Good reddish color. Here, I'm going to make it more orange. More orange than that. Let's go kind of a deep yellow. Maybe now green. A little too intense. Let's do that. Nope. Let's try switching that to multiply. That's perfect. That was a good little trick. Hadn't done that before. Oh, forgot about something else I needed to do. It's going to be pretty simple. Dot, dot. Red. Now it's going to look like blood. I'll do a different color thread. I like Pincushion. He's one of those characters that I actually came up with him before I came up with CosPain. I have a superhero universe that I've messed around with on occasion. And I'll go with, let's do green thread. Yeah, clean that up. But I created a superhero universe, and I had an idea for a cosplayer superheroine. Like, she's a celebrity cosplayer, and the whole idea behind it is her power set changes based on what character she's cosplaying as. And my idea then was an assistant whose job it was to help with really complicated cosplay. When did I come up with this? I I don't think it was at MagFest, which is where I came up with CosPain itself in 2017. I think it was 2016 Otakon. That would be my guess. Because one of my friends, I can't remember, it's one of two cosplayers, Niho or Tomoyo. I apologize. I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Niho, but I could be wrong. But she had a big old costume with clunky parts and needed help getting everywhere. And I was like, there needs to be like this little cosplay assistant who goes around and takes care of things and is fixing stuff on the fly. And that's when I came up with Pincushion, just this little guy with, kind of this nondescript uniform, doesn't talk, and does what needs to be done in order to get the cosplay done. But it's kind of a whipping boy, is underappreciated, and can fix stuff on the fly, just goes out of his way to make everything perfect. And that was the original, I guess that's the very first character I came up with for CosPain. I didn't realize at the time that I was going to go into CosPain. In fact, when I created CosPain, I don't know if I decided at that point to bring in Pincushion, but I mean, the strip I'm pulling this from that he's in, that was the 9th strip. So pretty early, I knew that he was getting worked into it. Where else is white going to be? Oh, glasses, of course. One of the annoying things is it's hard to fill in spaces with white until you filled it in with every other color. Oh, the teeth. Let's make those teeth pearly whites. And I'll detail the mouth more when I do the shading. Something else I noticed. There we go. But yeah, one of the things I decided when I came up with this comic was that I wanted to work Pincushion in there somewhere. I really like the character. I really like the idea behind the character, and I don't care if I'm the only person who enjoys him. He's finding his way into this comic. Let's see. Glasses, and I think that's everything for this stage. Whew, okay. I was thinking about maybe ending it here because this video's already run long. But the next part is one of the more interesting parts, so I kind of want to do it. I'm going to be creating the electrocution layer. We'll see how this ends up working. I'm gonna, actually first I want to fix that because there we go. Zoomed out. I'll do the sound effects in Clip Studio, but the rest of the effects need to be done here. Spike it. Ah, that'll probably be fine. Zap. Now, underneath all the coloring, let's do all right. Close that off, close that off, close that off. Close that off. Nope, I did that wrong. Close that off, 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 close that off. Will that do it? Get that little, there we go. Cool. Save me some time. Now here, there's a hole somewhere. Nope, that wasn't it. There are probably multiple holes. There's one. Nope, not the last one. There's one. Whoa, was that all I needed to do? No, that doesn't look right, does it? So it's close, very close. There's just a hole. There we go. With a sound effect, that'll probably be pretty good. Now I also need a little bit of smoke coming up. Already have the basic lines. Cool, that's the right tool for it. That should be pretty good. Let's have it go back. It makes it obvious that it's behind the chair. That's the problem. Would that do it? There we go. Yep, that'll be pretty good. And let's do shading layer 2, because I'm going to do a little bit of fancy stuff here. Multiply and fill. Yeah. Oh, I have it backwards. Flip them. Why does it look like it's on top of the electrocution layer? Huh. Let me extend it a little more, see what happens. Oh, I see the problem. That's dumb of me. I forgot to change the color. We want that adjusted. Oh, that was blur. Undo that. Right? Need to flip it. Oh, I see the problem. It's the electrocution layer, not the... Let's try stretching that one more time. A little more. Yeah, that'll make it better. Now, top shading layer, and this is going to be the last thing I probably do tonight. All right. There's the brush I want. Opacity's right. One of the first things I had to do when I installed Photoshop was reinstall all the Kyle Webster brushes that I use. For anyone just getting into digital drawing, Kyle Webster makes an excellent set of brushes that look really good and give you a lot of variety, specifically for Photoshop. I think he does stuff for others, but I'm not sure. I use him specifically for Photoshop, and he is great for that. I'm just being sloppy. But yeah, I had to reinstall all of them when I switched to this new computer, and it was time well spent because this brush is a Kyle Webster brush, and I use it in every single one of my CosPain strips. It is the best shading tool I have found so far for my purposes. Looks a little bit more brush-like than a lot of the tools you would normally get from Photoshop. That's good. Little back to the chair. Leg, 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 and butt. Whew. Well, this has definitely been a long video. I really need to find good ways to break these up better. And unfortunately, I have yet to really find one. I may start breaking them up just for the replays, just to make those a little bit shorter. I could theoretically do that in certain stages, maybe lettering part 1. There we go. Or just break up, maybe even break up pencils and inks, which are two very compatible steps. Tend to do them in the same video because they're a bit quicker, but would make my video shorter, which might not be a bad thing. Shading is comparatively fun, actually. A little bit more artistry goes into that than my version of coloring. Just because something you always have to eyeball. I feel like I'm not great at figuring out where shadows and things like that should go. What kills me are things like spot blacks and hatching, like that style of shading I've never been good at. Something about it always looks wrong. I've actually traditionally blamed it on the fact that the way I use a pencil is different from a lot of people because I'm left-handed, or honestly any drawing tool. When you're left-handed, you have to learn how to write and do other things like that without smudging the paper as much, because when you're writing in the English language, you're writing left to right, so your hand goes right across that paper, and it's less than ideal. I've had more than a few problems with my handwriting being considered illegible or things like that, or my work getting smudged because, well, that's just kind of how it ended up working out. And one of the things I think I always liked about drawing is it doesn't matter if you're working left to right when you draw. You can start from any part of the page and go in any direction. Wonder if that's one reason that there's supposedly a higher frequency of left-handed people in the arts. The whole left brain, right brain thing is apparently incorrect, but it is a rather high statistic from what I've encountered. Although I thought it was interesting. It was exactly 10% of our class that was left-handed when I was at CCS, and it's the only time in my life that's actually happened. I was actually really surprised to find that when I went to CCS, I met people who, when they were younger, had their handedness switched, which is honestly something that I didn't know still happened anywhere. Granted, the classmate, well, one of the people who told me was my age, but she claimed she switched herself. The other one said was about 40, and he said I was one of the last ones to get switched before they stopped doing that. There we go. I have no idea how I got off on that tangent. I completely forget. Actually, important thing before we go any further, I need to zoom out. Those pants are going to be a problem. I need to change their color. Back to the color. Oh. Back to the coloring layer before I forget. Let's try. Oh, that's why the tool's like that, because I used gradient earlier. I don't normally use gradient. Good enough. Don't quite like how dark it is, but it can't be the same color. It's going to look weird. And back to the inking step, or shading step. All right, where are we now? Did I remember? No, I did not. Here, fix that. Bam. Leg. I'm thinking I might not shade Yoru when she's getting electrocuted. That seems like it would, in a weird way, make sense. The entire face kind of shaded. Did the hair. Sometimes it's going to help to be a little bit more zoomed out so you can see everything as other people will see it. Then you zoom in and fix where it looks ugly. Get that done. Whew. Well, you can tell I'm about out of steam because talking stops. I think it's kind of reliable when my talking stops when the energy has run low. And according to what I'm seeing, I've been doing this recording for about an hour and a half, so I guess you can't blame me for running out of topics. And I had something. I actually came out here with something prepared to say with the whole conversation about. I'm actually going to big brush for this. Part of the trick to making it look brighter, that there's a new light source that is very bright. But with the whole thing on talking about intellectual property and fan art and stuff like that, man, I started with that. That's amazing how long ago that feels like it was. That's how it works. You're talking consistently for a long ass time. Lower shading. I should get some royalty-free music to play while I'm working, although I'm not entirely sure how it would end up working. And you'd probably end up hearing the same stuff over and over again, which I kind of like to avoid. Let's have your whole face be kind of in the shadow. There we go. Oh, and this part of your arm. Have them kind of back shadow. There's a wall back there. I don't normally do that, but I think it works for what's happening right now. And on to the last panel. Whew, this has been a stressful one, but we are almost there. And I appreciate anyone who watched through this video and stuck all the way with me. This is what I do all the time. This is what I have done as of making, once I finish the strip, what I have done 95 times. At least on this series. On other series, I've done even more. I'm actually excited because I've been working on the sequel to my last graphic novel, The Letters of the Devil. And one of the things that was kind of a problem with that one, it was my first graphic novel, and I was doing a style that I was kind of figuring out as I went. It ended up a lot more complicated than it really needed to be. And I learned as I went. And I figured out a great way that I could digitize part of the process. And when I manage to do that, or when I do that, it's going to make the whole thing not only look better, but it'll make producing it significantly easier. And I'm not quite at that stage yet. I'm still doing penciling, which is working pretty much the way it did in my previous book. But when I get to those later stages, my life is going to become dramatically easier, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. That's always important. You need to look forward to what you're working on, even when it, on some level, drives you insane and you feel like you hate it, because you don't really. Just like kids, right? But one of the... I'm going to be so happy to get that done. I've thought about working on that during one of these streams, and I just feel like you're not going to get... It's a kind of a tough thing to work on, at least at the stage that I'm in right now. I think when I get to inking or doing the shading, it might get easier. Actually, shading might be tough because I am going to do that traditionally, but it might be worth trying to figure out. And your wig looks perfect. Congratulations, Yoru. You were not electrocuted for nothing. And with that, there is technically one more thing I need to do. I will do that very quickly. Let's do that using that gray from before. There we go. And with that, the color is done. Whew! Well, I appreciate anyone who stuck with me and is now at the end of this particular little journey. If you're interested in seeing more of my work, this is the website that I use for this particular webcomic, www.CosPainComic.com. You can find more of my work at bwhcomics.com. I also have a Patreon, the link for which is at the bottom of this particular video. And I'm also BWH Comics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, basically anywhere you want to try to find me. I also do have replays of all these videos with a little bit of editing, but not much, on my YouTube channel, also under BWH Comics. So thank you very much for joining me, and rock on, guys, and never stop drawing.